Welcome, everybody, to Aging and Spirituality, where we talk about how to have a more fulfilled life past 60. I'm your host, Chris Jensen, and
I'm Cathy Lee Taylor, past 60, that's for sure.
yeah,
Hello.
and we're having a great time.
We are definitely having a great time.
So I want to ask you, do you think it is really possible to achieve your life goals after 60?
God, I'm living that one right now.
Yeah.
For sure. This should be good, folks. This should be good.
Well, I'm going to tell you the short answer is yes, but I know it's not simple. So I want to say that, if you're willing to do three things, I think you will see that it is possible. One is to get in touch with what your real life goals are now. Another is to understand how to prioritize. And the third thing is to be willing to do things differently. Some things, not everything. So, um, and you may or may not have looked at what your life priorities are. And I want to just share my experience when I started yoga that was so impactful in finding my real life goals and priorities. When I started yoga, we were asked to do a practice, the very first day of practice, and that was to list our top 10 priorities in life. Then the second step was to choose our top priority. So I did that. And then cross out any other priority in that top 10 that could take us in a different direction. I was,
Fractions.
yeah, I was shocked. This practice makes it clear that conflicting priorities can sabotage your top priority, and that's why very often we don't achieve it. And so after I got rid of the conflicting priorities, then we were highlighted any that went in the direction of number one that could support it. I was left with two that went in that direction, and it was really a shocking experience,
Mm.
but it was really helpful. It was helpful in understanding, you know, what I wanted and that I wasn't going to be able to achieve it when I was all over the place. So I wanted to start out with that because it quickly shows you why we don't often achieve what our real goals are in life. So now let's go to my first point. Let's get back to being in touch with what your real life goals are. Do you know what your main priority is? Has it changed as you've gotten older?
That's the big question. It changes after 60. Mine's changed multiple times since then.
It changes, but I think sometimes there's something underneath
A
that
thread. Yeah.
was there, but it looks different at different ages. I mean, I'll tell you my story. Did my priorities change after months of meditation and yoga, and then years, and as I got older? And what was interesting to me when I looked at this before doing this podcast, I thought, wow, my number one goal then was to have a super conscious or spiritual experience. I didn't know what that was, but I always had a drive. I had no idea, but I had
Oh,
a
come on.
drive to grow and to know that there was something more to life than just everyday experiences.
Yeah.
So here I am past 60. And while I phrase it a lot differently with a lot more experience and certainly a lot more humility, my main priority is still to experience and live with love and spirit expressing, which is kind of where I was trying to go before, but didn't know and didn't have the experience or humility to quite say it like that. So what about you?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's what you're talking about. And I'm trying to listen to your experience of it is that thread of wanting the spiritual connection through everything that you do has always been there for you. But I don't think I compare in the same way as you by any means because I was, full out wanting other things that had nothing to do with spirit when I first came to the yoga center in 1982. For me, it was all about business. It was all about making money. It was all about survival. Had a son, had things that I needed to accomplish, right? So for me, spirit had to hit me over the head. take a baseball bat, boom, hit her on the head. And it did, right? Because I had, like a heart attack at 35. And literally that is what turned my life around because you don't go through an NDE without being changed on a very fundamental level. And so then I think after that, I started to really consider the fact that maybe there was something else I was meant to be doing and thinking about and experiencing besides all the things that I've been programmed as a little person to worry about or to think that were important, like, so for me, after 60, then there was another shift because it was like, well, now I feel like I've learned to be whole in a different way than I was before. I'm not saying I'm at the end of my goals by any means, or not um, in some position of being realized. Let me be really clear about that. I still daily get up and think about, am I living in harmony? Am I in balance? Am I expressing love and spirit as much as I want to be? And so sometimes that feels like an effort, and sometimes it naturally flows.
Mhm.
So for me, after 60, I started thinking about, well, it felt urgent. For me, that's the thing that I can say about about aging. What I wanted to do and be and what I was here to experience and offer and serve became very urgent because it was like, well, I got maybe 20 years left, maybe a little more. I don't know how long I'm going to live. Nobody does, but um, I had this profound sense of wanting to take advantage of that time and to really make the most of every day that I possibly can. So I do really live with that theme like on a regular basis. And I'm doing similar things to, like business. I still have to work. I still, I'm doing things in business that I did similar to years ago. I still have creative endeavors that I enjoy. They come in flows, Sometimes I love to write, sometimes I don't. Sometimes, I definitely love building businesses. I'm definitely an enthusiast when it comes to being an entrepreneur. So anything that has to do with that kind of work, I love. I love to help other people do that kind of stuff. So those things just kind of come naturally to me, and I get opportunities to help in those ways just naturally. Those are kind of my passions, and I just uh, see where I can take it farther, but make it easier, make it better,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
be more efficient at it over the years. So, I think my priorities have shifted. And again, that sense of urgency that I want to
Mm.
do as much and leave as much of a legacy as I possibly can for my son, and to also just really live as spiritually connected as I possibly can, just giving everything up to spirit and just doing the best job I possibly
That
can.
urgency is definitely there. Yeah, that's really important. I think that's a shift that,
Ooh, bless you.
excuse me, that we all have,
Yeah,
and I think that's a really important shift
yeah,
because, if not now, when?
yeah.
Yeah, there are yogis who meditate, uh, not necessarily here in the US, but in India. They'll meditate at a graveyard because they want to sense that I may not be here tomorrow, so I've got to do my best right now.
Hmm.
So I want to share some thoughts on how to find your top priority. You could reflect on your values, your passions, your strengths, explore different avenues, and consider what truly excites and motivates you. Because very often people don't know. They've been so busy all their lives, like you said, taking care of business, taking care of the family, doing whatever has to be done just to thrive. And um, it's important. And there are two things you can do that may help you find some top priorities. Spend like 5 to 10 minutes in a quiet place outside if possible. Put your awareness in the heart center, right here along the spine behind the heart, or right here, and just reflect on the events of the past week. What got you excited? What motivated you? Ask yourself, what does my ideal life look like?
Mm.
And another that you could do, another thing, is to, in that same quiet place, first try to have a connection. So just try to witness your thought. We talk about this in other podcasts. Witness your thoughts and feelings, just like you're watching a parade. Don't get involved. let your mind calm down for a couple of minutes. And then, if your mind calms down a little bit, put your awareness in the heart center and try to sense, what is it does my heart really want? What does my heart really want? Not my mind, not what people have told me, but what does my heart really want? It's amazing what may come from there.
Yeah. And then you have to figure out, can I do it or not? Am I open to it? Can I receive it?
Right.
That kind of thing. You're setting up that process to have that communication with spirit so you can follow it, and it's interesting for women too. Just I wanted to mention this. A lot of women hit this point at menopause. God's kind of worked it out that way,
Yeah.
like menopause hits, and all of a sudden you have these thoughts like, well, what was used to be really important to me was, oh, I was cute, or I was,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or I could accomplish certain things, or I was athletic, or I was, whatever it was that you thought you were freaking great at. And all of a sudden it's just like now you're just human. And, and and you sweat at night, and you're grouchy, and you're hormonal, and you're all these things, right? That you're going through this transition. And it really is a time when you start to reflect and go, wow, okay, now what do I want to, what's important now? What's
Mhm.
really important to me now? It's an interesting change in life.
It's a very big change in life. It's a very big change. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you get some kind of sense of what, and maybe you know what's in your heart and you just don't
Yep.
think it's possible, then, that practice I mentioned about prioritizing, you need to actually write, yeah, you need to manifest it by physically writing down your priorities and do that process. Cross out anything that doesn't go directly towards number one, because you will be sabotaging yourself. For example, if your top goal, let's say, is to learn to play a musical instrument, if you have like 5 priorities to be an interior designer, an Ayurvedic practitioner, like, it's not going to happen. You likely won't be good at any of those things. So put your energy into that number one, and other things flow into it. I mean, my goal was to have this connection with spirit, but that also means taking care of the things that I have to take care of in my life. But it means making that a priority. And people often say, uh, about doing this kind of priority practice, oh, I have so many things to do. And that may be true. But if you find your top priority and try to give the most and best attention to anything that supports it, you will be amazed at how much you get done and how much
Well,
easier it is.
well, I want to ask you something, because you said words that actually trigger me that I don't really know sometimes how to respond to when somebody says to me, what is your ideal life? Like, in the past, I would have been easily able to say, oh, I want a house, and I want a garden,
Mm,
and I want this and I want that. Now, I don't feel like that's an easy process when somebody asks me that question. It kind of pisses me off, to be honest with you.
mm,
Nothing to do with you. Just
mm.
that's what's going on in my head. Like, fuck, am I supposed to know what I want to do like, what is ideal for
Yeah,
me?
that's not, I think you went in the wrong direction with that
Okay.
question. The ideal is what does it look like to be in your ideal? Like, we did a practice in yoga where we carry these suitcases up and then we go to our ideal room. The ideal room for me was just nothing in it and the sun coming in.
Yeah.
But what is it? Well, ideally, I mean, I think for me, my ideal life would be to have lots of time to uh, do the yoga practices I want to do, and at the same time, manifest that, share it with others, share it with my family. It's not any big thing. It's not, it's, you know, it's not what I have done many times in my life. It's like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
and I'm
Well,
not saying I do my ideal life.
yeah.
I'm not saying I do
It,
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 but I
it
have that
definitely,
as more of a goal.
it's definitely a thing of, I don't know, priorities. Like when I listen to what you just said for your answer, I can see the threads that's been there for you your whole life.
Hmm.
When I look at my threads, the spiritual one is the number one that has always been there in my life, trying to connect that with everything.
Hmm.
Um, and then after 60, it was more like there was a another priority of staying healthy. Because now your body's asking you to do
Right, right.
stuff
We
that
can't do any of the rest of it without a healthy body. Yeah,
yeah, and you didn't have to worry about those things under 60. Most of the time it was,
you're
taking
fine.
care of itself. You didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So the added age dimension definitely puts a focus on the health in a way that you have to do a minimum to be able to get past that point where you're like, okay, now I'm free to think about something else that I want to do today. Like I got to take care of myself. I got to take care of my body. My body's, it been dragging me around for dragging my soul around for 60 something years now. So it's kind of like I it demands attention. I pay attention to it, and
Right, and
actually,
that supports your main priority.
yeah, it does support my
Very
yeah,
important. So you want to keep that one going. That's what like that priority list. You want to keep going, whatever your number one is, you want to keep the things that support that going. And what you want to do is try to not give so much energy to the things that take you in a different direction.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's very well said right there. Because when you don't feel well, that's all you can think about.
That's
Very,
that's all you want to do is get better. I
yeah.
know last year, a year ago, it was around this time of year, I mean, a little bit earlier. Yeah, like it was February, March, and I caught something. I don't know if it was RSV or not, but I was fine after a few days, but then I had this cough that went on for 6 months.
No,
All I
oh,
could think of, and that's, I'm sorry, two
6 weeks.
months. I was
Okay.
going to say 6 weeks, but it was 2 months. It was actually 2 months. And um, nothing seemed to get rid of it. I had gone to the urgent care and the doctor there said, oh, you have a sinus infection, which I have gotten in my life many times. So she gave me antibiotics and it got a little bit better, but
Yeah.
it didn't go away. So a couple of weeks later, I thought, I'm doing a lot of holistic stuff and nothing's working. So I went back to urgent care and I saw someone else. Actually, first time it was the actual physician. This time it was a um, physician's assistant. And she said to me, I have seen probably 50 people with the same problem.
Wow.
She said, you didn't need the antibiotics. It's not an infection. She said, it's just this particular virus. That's how it manifests with this cough. And the only way you're going to get rid of this is to take, she wanted me to take steroids for 3 days, 3 pills. And at first I was leery of doing that. And she said, well, let me give you the prescription. You think about it. Because she said, what you're doing is not getting the antibiotics, didn't get rid of it. The decongestants you're taking, you're not getting rid of it. It's
Yep.
going away. So I felt crappy enough that I had this thing sit
That's what takes.
for a couple of weeks. I took it
Yeah.
and it was immediate relief.
Wow.
3 days, that's all it took. Because I asked her about the side effects. She said, 3 days of this, you're not going to have any major side effects at all. She said, the worst that can happen is you'll eat a lot and you'll gain some weight, which
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about. And she said, it may affect your sleep, so don't take it at night, take it first thing in the morning. So I did it for 3 days, and lo and behold, the cough was gone, and I actually felt fantastic.
There
But
you
that whole
go. Your
time,
body.
that was a very challenging thing because that whole time, what I was thinking about mostly was getting over this cough.
Coughing.
Yeah, yeah, it affects everything in your life,
Yeah.
I teach a pranayama class, and I had someone substitute for me for a couple because I couldn't do the pranayams without coughing. And
Wow.
all I was thinking about was getting rid of that. So health is very important, and that does support whatever else we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, um, the other thing I wanted to share that I think is important is, are you willing to change the way you do some things now? Because so often we spend most of our lives like the little gerbils, running in a cage or treading water. And you may have lots of responsibilities, and we all do, like caring for loved ones, jobs. But if you find what's most meaningful for you from a deep centered place, you can do all those things with more joy and more efficiently. And you'll be surprised at the difference. Change is inevitable. If we're going to achieve our life's goals after 60, some people fear change and some people welcome it. And if you want to achieve your goals, achieve your top priorities, your true passion, your heart's true feeling, now's the time to let go of old habits that may be taking you away from that and being open to creating new ones that take you closer rather than away. I've gone through many changes in the 40 plus years I practice yoga. Some I welcomed, some were difficult. With hindsight, all led me to being a better person, more of the person deep down inside I want to be. So when changes are challenging, keep your mind and heart focused on your top goal as best you can. That'll help you to go through it.
I love that. But okay, I'm gonna
Mm,
true confessions here.
mm,
Because I'm always thinking about how can I do something better?
mm,
How can I do it in a way that I've never done it before? Like
mm,
I always want to inject a new kind of creative mode and a way of doing things. So I'm not gonna lie, I have no shame in using artificial intelligence. So
yes.
if I have like an idea, like I'm working on starting this business and this is what I want to do with it. And so all the pre-programming from the past that you've done before and all the businesses that you started or helped or whatever comes in and I'm like, no, I just literally close the door on all of it.
Yeah.
And then I go over and I brainstorm with artificial intelligence and I go, what do you think about this? And, la, 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 and I'm typing in, talking to it like it's a real person. And then I, I get answers and it's like, it triggers me to think differently. It triggers me to be creative about how I approach my problems or
That's
how
a
I,
perfect example. That's a perfect
yeah.
example of it. That's awesome. That's
It is,
awesome.
like, I mean, I'm not saying you got to use it to write all your stuff and do all your stuff. Use it to just sit there and like you were talking to a good friend and
Yeah,
say, what do you think
smart
about
one.
it? Yeah, and it's freaking tapping into hundreds of thousands and billions of people's ideas, like that's so
Hmm.
freaking great. I love that. So yeah, that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing is just literally sitting there asking questions so I can get my mind to do different things that I've never done before. And it stretches you. It
Mhm.
it makes you really think about doing things incredibly different. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that's how I
That's
think
an awesome example. Yeah.
that's how I force myself to change, force myself to be different and not do things the way I used to because how boring is that?
And you know what? The thing is that, one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting
Yeah,
to get different results, you know?
it'll make you insane.
Yeah, it
You keep
will.
the same thing.
It will. It will.
Drive me crazy.
So I want to end with a quote because this is so funny. I was making myself a cup of chamomile tea a little while before this podcast, and there was a quote on the tea bag, and it just fits with this. And it was, "The world needs your unique gifts. Don't hide them inside you."
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
Don't hide it.
I kind of wanted to end on.
I love that. The world is a gift. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Enjoy it. So
Play with it.
hopefully we've given you some things to think about, some encouragement to live your best life. And if you have any questions or anything, please come to our YouTube channel. We're happy to talk to you. We're happy to answer questions and we want to hear what you think about it.
Yeah. And subscribe and like and share. That's what she
Yes.
meant.
Yes.
I have to remind
And
her.
and also comment,
Yeah,
I mean,
I want you to comment.
because when you comment, we're going to respond and help you. So
Yeah, that's a great way to help you directly with your
yeah.
individual stuff. Have fun.
Have
See you.
fun, everybody.
Bye.